Number 19, organized matter. The material of the body of a living thing is organic matter. Organized matter is structures of molecules and atoms which have been assembled for the purpose of functioning adaptively. They are structures that have been built by their innates to house them, in parentheses, the innates. They are therefore under the under the solicitous care of those intelligences. The same, the same as any house would be under the care of its owner. The house of an innate intelligence is built and kept in repair by its owner. The structure is precious to the intelligence that built it, but it is not precious as a structure to universal intelligence, except insofar as it is part of the universal scheme to have structures built in order to tear them down. And I love that. I love that little explanation there. It's very, it paints a cool picture in your mind when you think of the analogy to a house. You know, I'm in this house. My job is to take care of it, to protect it in a sense from being from being broken down by universal forces. And our innate intelligence is the same way. My body is the house that my intelligence built, and in my innate intelligence job is to protect this thing, my body, from being destroyed by universal forces. And I think it doesn't quite get into it here, but he kind of hints at it a little bit. Something we've talked about before, where my innate intelligence is my innate intelligence. It can't do anything for your physical body or anyone else's physical body. It can't talk to you. Its only job is to keep this house under repair and to keep it working as best as possible. So I think it's a really cool description here that Stevenson has used to start to get into innate intelligence and living things.
Yeah, I think you know, he's brought that out very clearly, that that's the role of the innate intelligence of the body, and I think that's where we need to differentiate innate intelligence of the body and the overall innate intelligence of the body, who is the or which is the individual's innate intelligence, and then the innate intelligence within the cell. So there's an innate intelligence within the cell that's just confined to that cell and has the purpose of maintaining that cell in active organization so that that cell can continue to live. And then there's, of course, the innate intelligence of the body, which is the individual's innate intelligence, or the keeper of the entire house. So, yes. And that's where we as chiropractors have our role as maintaining the keeper of the entire house. And when we maintain that health in existence, then that individual stays alive, which means it becomes our purpose as chiropractors, or our role as chiropractors, or our mission in chiropractic is to keep that individual alive, because we know that the innate intelligence that maintains those skin cells are going to be dead in a period of time, and you know, they may last a few weeks or a few months, but they're going to die in a period of time, and they're going to be replaced by new cells. And that's why Reggie used to say, you know, you don't have to worry about the cells. They're going to die in a few months or a few weeks anyhow.
Yeah, right.
To make sure the new ones are coming in healthy and expressing the full innate potential that they have, and that's our role as chiropractors, to make sure that the new cells being created are being created with full potential. The innate intelligence is expressing itself as fully as possible to those cells. And
so one thing there that you said a moment ago that I wanted to touch on real quick here too is how our body, we have an overall innate intelligence, and you use the example there of skin cells, but then the cells of our body also have innate intelligence, right? So the skin cells have that intelligence in them individually, in addition to the overall innate
Yeah,
intelligence of our body.
yeah. I don't know that BJ really never really fully developed that concept, um, and he never talked about the cellular intelligence
Mm,
or organ intelligence or tissue intelligence, even though I think that he indicated its existence and its presence, and we understand that presence, and but I don't know that he ever really
mhm.
fully came across that. Of course, the objective of the chiropractor was to maintain the innate intelligence of the body, the body's innate intelligence, uh, as the whole
Right.
uh, house. Going to your house example, which I think is very good. We realize that there are certain aspects of our home that need to be repaired and need to be replaced. And fortunately, I live in a place now where we have a maintenance man who comes in and does all that kind of stuff for us, so I don't have to do it myself. Uh, but I know my daughters had to replace the heating system in their house recently because they've been there for, I don't know, 10 years or something, and the heater went, so they had to put a new heater in there. But we don't have to do that because we have somebody who replaces it.
Right.
And we recognize as chiropractors that there is something that is going to replace those parts that wear out. Uh,
Hmm.
they will be repaired up until up to a certain point, and they live a certain amount of time. And if we eventually they do wear out and need to be replaced, and if they are something that can't be replaced, uh, then the entire house needs to be renovated, and
Right.
that's something we don't have the capability of doing, and that becomes an issue of the limitations of the innate
Right.
intelligence body. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, I think that sums up Principle 19 pretty well.
Yeah.
There we
I
go.
yeah.
Let's see. Why don't
Just
we
the only thing I wanted to bring out there
yeah, of
is
course.
that there is organization within matter that's not living matter, and but it still is organized. It's just organized on a different level. So
Hmm.
if we break matter down to its simplest components, eventually we get to the component that's not living matter any longer, but it still is organized,
Right.
and it's organized on an atomic level, and that's the difference that we don't deal with as chiropractors. We only deal with matter that's organized on an intelligence level, and
Hmm.
I think Stevenson, I think, brings that out when he says the body of a living thing is organized matter. So he's indicating that there is a level of organization, and that's what we chiropractors address, that level of organization. That's living matter, but there is still organization within that non-living matter. If we break it down into its simplest atomic level, there's a principle there that we can see in that organized matter on that level. But and that's what we deal with as chiropractors when we
Right.
deal with the organization within a living human being.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and well, anyway, that's
Yeah. Perfect. Well, again,
okay.
as we go along here, it's a lot of these principles, all the things we've talked about in the past support these, so it doesn't take as much commentary or, you know, to explain some of these things. And so that's great. I love it. So we'll
Yeah,
do,
that's
oh, good.
I think that's why Stevenson is building upon, one builds upon the other,
Yep.
and after a while it's supposed to all come together,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's moving us through these principles that eventually will become just so complex and sensible. And that's why I think that the idea of chiropractic, especially the idea of objective, straight chiropractic, or chiropractic based upon its objective, it makes so much sense to people
Yeah.
once they go through and understand these principles. And that's what, one of the things that really impacted me when I began to study them and understand them, and put them together and see the reasonableness and the
Mm.
deduction that was built, one upon the other,
Yep.
and it makes so much sense. And that's one of the things that I was always amazed when I tried to explain things to people. The most uh, common response that people say was, "Yeah, that really makes sense."
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
even the fact that your cells die, and just like the, the broccoli that we eat for dinner had to die, and be put into a state of being
Mm.
cooked. Our cells that die, and they have to be eaten too, and that's what the that's
Mm-hmm.
what bacteria and dust mites do, is eat those dead cells, and it's not a very
Yeah.
pleasant thought, but it just is such an amazing thing,
Right.
and such a logical, sensible thing.
Exactly.
And when you explain chiropractic in that light to the average person, they can understand it. They
Right.
realize that their cells are dying, and are being replaced by new ones, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole principle of chiropractic becomes very logical to them,
Yes.
uh, and makes sense. And I think that's one of the great things that we have going for us.
Right.
And I guess even a medical doctor understands that cells are dying all the time, and I think he just doesn't relate it to his practice, and that's sad in a way, because he's missing out on a beautiful picture that
Yeah.
we are fortunate enough to see,
Yep.
and be able to understand, and be able to apply it to our practice every day in our lives. and
Yep.
and I feel badly for him that he's missing out on that whole concept, even though he understands it in certain principles and certain parts, and he's missing out on the big picture, so to
Right.
speak. And
Yep.
he's not seeing the forest for the trees that
Right.
he's looking through, and yet if he took one of those trees and broke it down to its simplest parts, there it is.
Yep.
And
Right.
we do that by looking at the cell and looking at the body as a total organism, and there's a wisdom within that body that we can see, and we call it the innate intelligence of the body, and that kind of puts the picture all together for us.
Yep. Awesome. That's why you're the best, right there. You just summed it all up. And uh, what you just said there too, of how it's so reasonable to people. And that's what I love about it. You explain these things, and the reason why I wanted to put this together and have you share this is because for us as chiropractors, to get to the point where we can simply explain these things and really own it, you've got to really get deep into it yourself. You can't teach something unless you know it really, really well. If you go to a wrestling analogy, you can't really show someone. You can, but the more you know a move, the better you can demonstrate it to somebody. The more you know chiropractic, the easier you can break it down and so that they do give you that response of, oh, that makes perfect sense. It's reasonable. And so I hope that the chiropractors that are watching this don't take it for granted that it is a simple concept, but there's a lot of value in knowing it inside and out to make it simple. The reason you're able to so easily explain it to people is because of all the hours and the years you've spent studying this stuff. So that's what I want to get to, and that's what I hope all the chiropractors that are watching this want to get to too, so that we can just clearly get that message to a person and have it come through us in a very easy to understand way. And you're the best at that. So I thank you again for your time. And next week, we're going to get into Principle 20, which is innate intelligence. So that'll be a lot of fun. And look forward to seeing you then.